Stoner Terrorism, a comedy routine by Emperor Saturn. It's hard to be a medical marijuana patient while also leading the downfall of global capitalism. Toppling the ruling class is a detailed project. You might not want to write it all down, that could get you in trouble. But then you're a stoner, you can't remember all the details. You can remember them in the long term, but not immediate recall. It's hard being a stoner terrorist. You think you've checked the dead drops, but are you sure? It's probably fine. When you finally check them, you see two messages. The first one says, "Please help, they found us. We need a safe house immediately." Whoopsie. The next one says, "They got most of us. I'm the last one. They'll crack the entire network. Go to ground immediately." That sounds concerning, but is it really? Logically, you should go underground, but you don't have a safe house because you forgot to set it up with your short-term memory. Also, safe houses are expensive, and you spent your money on weed. So after seeing these disturbing messages, you go back to your place. You're all stressed out, so you smoke and you turn on C-SPAN. Terrorists watch C-SPAN to maintain their hatred. You start wondering, are you in danger? Then you remember, no, not really. You were never really a good member of the terrorist group anyway, because when everyone else was doing terrorism, you were smoking weed. Indeed, you are now the last remaining member. All others have been caught. Your stoner strategy saved the movement. You resolve to rebuild the organization and lead the people to freedom, but only after a few more bong rips. I was watching the movie United Red Army about this kind of thing. So in this movie, a woman told a man she was leaving him for another man, and she said it was the correct thing to do from a communist perspective. Honey, just tell me your feelings have changed and leave communism out of it. Man, terrorism. Everything is fine. You finally establish some good vibes in the hideout. You're sitting with your friends watching Netflix. And then somebody stands up and starts shouting like a robot about the global proletarian revolution and the necessity of totally militarizing the party and apparently militarizing our tones of voice. You tell them this isn't that kind of group. We just fight the ruling class. We don't scream like psychos because the neighbors will hear us and then we'll get caught. But then everyone joins the screaming. Security be damned. After all, this is a group of very emotional people. You realize, you're not just in a terrorist group, you're in a terrorist cult. Most of them are. So now the new rule is for everyone to always get into shouting matches over minor details that don't really matter. Terrorist cults, what's the deal with those? 90s quirky. If you want to drive yourself over the edge, watch C-SPAN. Anyone who pays attention to Congress becomes an insurrectionist. When I watch C-SPAN, I say to myself, God bless America, but only so much. Watching the speaker election taught me congresspersons are reptiles. That's when I finally saw it. It's the way they move, staying perfectly still until they want something from someone, and then becoming very active. Congresspeople are like the actual reptilian lizard people, but they're not a different species technically. They had the same genetics as humans, mostly. Human beings exist on a spectrum between hairless mammals and hairy reptiles. And I'm just saying, Congresspeople are the furthest on the spectrum toward reptile. Kind of like, investment bankers. Now on C-SPAN, there are things that no ordinary person is meant to see. On C-SPAN, there are evil, horrendous things that violate the laws of nature and decency. I need only 30 seconds of C-SPAN to get me past my writer's block. Watching those demons sell out the people every 5 seconds, forcing myself to watch C-SPAN is like burning my own soul with a hot iron. Congress looks like zombies voting. It's not because they're old. It's the way they move, like they're not alive. At a certain level, arguably, they're not. I watched the State of the Union to get a lesson in show business. It paid off. The people in Congress don't behave like you or me. These are a very distinct and different group of people. They are hyper-conformist. They are not conscious. They have no thoughts. Their lives revolve solely around social climbing, by doing whatever the people around themselves are doing. They run completely on instinct. They never use their frontal lobe. They do not vibrate on a higher octave than ordinary people, but a much lower one. Watching C-SPAN, it's like the center of the situationist spectacle. In Congress occurs human behavior in its most false chords. Everyone in Congress is like a character from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. We must never worry that we are unworthy of taking power, for we must always remember to compare ourselves to the people we are taking power from. Congress is a cult. Everyone in Congress has drank the Kool-Aid. They are in deep denial of their criminal nature. I know they know it, But I also know they push those thoughts away. But I know they still feel it. By that 15th speaker election vote, it was amazing to see how much the members of Congress had reverted to their base animal instincts, hooting and hollering in groups. Now, Congress is supposed to be this showcase of national order, but everyone in Congress hates each other. I know the secret of United States Congress. The secret of United States Congress is that the people in it are pure bullshit. Watching the speaker election, Republicans tripping over themselves, you know things are bad when even the oppressors can't get it together. They're usually the ones lecturing us about that. I hate Congress so much it overflows my hate meter. Every time I Google what race is Lauren Boebert, I'm always sad when it comes back that she's supposedly white. My subconscious tries to blame the shame of Lauren Boebert on some race other than my own, but she's also a congressperson, so I just blame Congress. You don't even want to be half as evil as Congress. The people can rise up and throw off our corporate overlords without even being half as evil as United States Congress. They tell you terrorism is fun, blowing stuff up, 70 virgins? No. Real-life terrorism is living in the West Philly basement of a guy named Squiggles, surrounded by a bunch of rusty pipes and noisy home appliances, having to overhear Generation Z debate whether veganism should be required by intersectionality. Meanwhile, you're looking up the tech specs for how to defeat a luxury home alarm system on a slow-ass onion router connection on the laptop you had in college, and you're seconds away from finding the right order to cut the wires, when Generation Z interrupts to tell you that they're not sure you're a safe person to have in their space because you haven't kept up with the latest weekly trend in the made-up garbage words and syllables that pour out of their stupid mouths. Squiggles would ordinarily vouch for you in a situation like this, but he's currently indisposed, smoking DMT. You end up in a trailer park in Sticktown, full of people who kept up their Trump flags even after January 6th. You fight your whole town off, with nothing but a stick like you're literally the Witcher. At this point, you learn to code and disappear into the suburbs, having no contact with anyone in the movement for another 2 years until they read the headlines of your daring attack. You survive, you get away with it. You never talk to anyone from the movement again. Why would you? They're the reason you became what you are.